Hello everyone, this is Hoda Ganji. In this video, I'm going to talk about VRay 5 for Rhino 7, and we're going to create an image such as this one. So if you go to chaosgroup.com, you can find VRay for Rhino. After you install VRay for Rhino, it's going to add the VRay menu here. Also under your renders, under current renderer, you can find different renderer engines here. So by default, this is usually on Rhino render. And now that VRay menu over there is not there anymore. If I switch the renderer to VRay, it's going to add the VRay menu over there. And in these menus, you can find the lights, objects, etc., which I have also put them here. So the first one is our frame buffer. The second one is the render icon itself. We also have lighting tools, which has different types of lighting inside, and there are some other objects too. So if this is on Rhino render, if you want to go to like your frame buffer or anything, it says please choose VRay as your current renderer. So that means you need to switch to VRay. So we modeled this house already in a Rhino. I'm gonna show you in a different view. I have some objects here, and I wanna work on that living room area. And you see I also have one Rhino light here. So this is one rectangular light. I have already placed some cameras in the file. I want to go to the living room camera, and you kind of see this. I have also assigned materials in Rhino. So these are all Rhino materials. So something such as the Rhino materials or Rhino lights work very well when you work with VRay, but something such as the background that I have assigned in Rhino might not necessarily work in VRay as well. So before doing anything, I just want to try one render here. I can use the render icon from here. So you see the material work well here, and over there the objects work well, but you see that light is not adjusted and it's not invisible, so I need to make it invisible. I'm gonna close this VRay frame buffer, and I want to talk a little bit about this menu here, the asset editor. Basically everything for VRay is under this menu, and you can actually expand it by clicking on the two sides. So the first item here can take you to different materials. For now, I'm gonna just continue with the materials that we have assigned in Rhino. Second menu takes you to lights, and we have many things here. We also have settings here. So you see that we have Rhino document sun here. And if I click on that, it's going to take me to the settings of the sun. Usually I would like to change the size multiplier of the sun to 0, and that creates sharp edges for the shadows. I'm going to leave the intensity multiplier for now. Okay. I'm going to switch to shaded. I'm going to grab this light. So if I select the Rhino light, I can go to properties, light, and I can turn it on and off from here. So I turned it off. I just want to take one other render and see how it works. Before doing that, you remember from the previous videos, if you go to properties of the file, under document properties, we have some settings here. I want to make sure that this is on 72 and this is on low quality. So this is good for now. Okay. Also, you remember that in render tools, we had this toggle lights panel. And if you go to the sun, if you scroll down, you can assign location by clicking on this here item. So this is now in Toronto, Canada, and this is set to like a day in January, sometime around 1 p.m. This sounds good. I want to close this window. So I want to take another test render and see now how it looks like. So in this render, we only have the sunlight, and you see the background that I have assigned in Rhino does not work in VRay, so I need to assign the background in VRay. And I might add some light behind the window, but it has to be invisible so I can see through the light. So first I want to actually adjust that light. I want to turn it on, but I want to make it invisible. So when the light is selected, I want to go to my asset editor window, and now you see that this is showing the rectangular light. I want to change the intensity. 100 was too much. I want to go with 1/5 of this number, maybe 20. And under options, I want to change this to invisible. So now the light is on, but it's invisible, so I can see through the light, and the intensity is lower. Also, in order to change the background in VRay, you need to go to settings, and we have the option for environment here. I can click on texture slot to assign an image. I can go to here, open this file option, and under texture placement, we can try different mapping, but I think going with the screen is going to work better in this case. You can also try other forms of projecting this image on one surface. If you go with like spherical, it means that it's going to project this image on the interior surface of a sphere. So I want to close this. I want to get one other test render. So you see this time we have both the sunlight and the light behind the window. We have the background, but it's kind of too dark. So I want to actually close this. I want to go to my asset editor window. Under settings, under environment, when the image is too dark, you can just change the intensity to a higher number. Like I might make this 5 times lighter, so I want to go with 5. I want to close this. We're going to take another render. Now you see it's getting much better. You can also work with some of the items here. One of them which is useful is this one, which draws a window. So if I use this one and draw a window here, it's going to only render that part, so it's going to be faster, right? So if I click on that part and click on render from here, it's actually working only on that section, right? So if you have changed something and you want to check one specific area, you can go with this region render. I want to turn it off for now. You can use interactive render if you want your render to update with your scene. So if you zoom in and zoom out, this interactive render is gonna react accordingly, but I would usually prefer the regular render unless you have like a very good computer and everything. So this is now almost good. Maybe this is a little bit too intense in light here, so I can reduce the intensity of the sunlight, but the rest of the scene looks good. I want to close this. I want to go back to my asset editor window, and under lights, which is the second item here, I want to click on the Rhino document sun, and you can change the intensity multiplier from here. So this is now set to 1. If I want to go with like 3/4 of this light intensity, I want to go with 0.75 and try a render now. So it looks a little bit less intense here. I can decrease it even further. You can stop the rendering from here if you want. I want to close this, go to my asset editor, and maybe I can change this to 0.5. So this seems almost good now. I want to stop this render. Whenever you think the render is good, there are two places which control the quality of the final render. One of them is in Asset Editor. I want to go to Asset Editor under Settings. First item under Settings is kind of the render overall properties. So you can change the quality to high. And for the render output, you can change the size from here. Why this is on 800? It's because Under file properties, I had assigned 800 here, right? So if I go here to my asset editor under settings, under render output, let's say for the final render, we want to go with 1500 for the pixels. That's good. If I close this, go back to my file properties, you see that this icon is also changed here. So when you change it over there in the asset editor of VRay, it's going to change it in the document properties too. So basically it's following these settings here, which is now on high, the quality, and this is on 1500. But just to make sure for the final render, I want to go to my properties. I want to also change the DPI or dot per inch to like 300 and change this to final quality as well. Okay, now we can take the final render from here. So I want to compare this render, which is made out of VRay for Rhino, and this render, which is the Rhino rendering engine itself. Basically, both of them have some good features. So the main difference is that in this case, the render which was created using the VRay engine was faster. So for instance, if I set the final pixels to 3000, this image, which is created using the Rhino rendering engine itself, it took about 6 to 7 hours, but this image, which is using VRay, with the same amount of pixels and the resolution actually on final, this took about less than 1 hour. So in this case, the VRay renderer kind of act faster than the Rhino engine itself. When the render is finished, you can save it from here. I want to go to my save options and I want to save it as a PNG format. That's good. You can also go with other formats, but I prefer to keep it as PNG.